I just picked up my lunch at this takeout place. A veggie wrap, an apple, and a bottle of water. Pretty healthy, right? Now, I did order it on my phone while I was rushing here about 3 minutes ago. Walked in, didn't even talk to a human being, and I'll probably finish the entire meal in about 5 or 10 minutes. So, not so healthy. And not just for my digestion, but for my mental health. Our Western way of eating is taking a huge toll on our anxieties and depression. One Harvard Health study showed that a much healthier and relaxed Mediterranean or Japanese diet lowered the risk of depression by as much as 35%. 35%. I'm Kevin Frankish. My guest is Joy McCarthy, a holistic nutritionist from Toronto, right now on The Happy Molecule. The saying goes, you are what you eat. And I've never really thought about that in relation to mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd like to add, you are what you eat and also what you absorb. So you are what you eat, right? What you eat provides the raw materials to make new cells, to make neurotransmitters, hormones. When your food is broken down in your gut, it's broken down into the smallest parts, the essential fatty acids, the amino acids. And when those are assembled, they make neurotransmitters.
Okay, I get it. Because I eat bad, I get fat. I eat good, I get skinny. But I've never really thought about it before. You are what you eat when you're talking about your mood and your mental health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I think a lot of people just think of how they look as an indication of how well they're eating. But it's a bit of a mindset change, right? To think how I eat is impacting my energy and vitality, is impacting my mood. And I think that's why, if you're not aware of that, to your listeners out there, I think the key thing is to do a food journal and write down a food and emotions journal, write down what you're eating, and then write down how you feel. And that can really help you identify and just really pay attention to it. It's just about creating awareness, I think.
Break it down for me. What's happening when I have that bag of chips and I'm absorbing it, as you say? What's happening in my brain?
Yeah. So when you're eating, so that's a great example of a simple carb. So a refined carbohydrate that has very little fiber. So what's happening in your gut, first of all, because that's the first step before your brain, is you are digesting it super fast because you have no fiber to slow the release of glucose. Then you have a quick spike of glucose in your bloodstream. And your brain is a sugar hog. So your brain loves this excess of glucose, and that gives you that immediate boost of energy. And then the other thing is, we know that fat, sugar, and salt, which is what is packed into processed foods, are so incredibly addictive, and they make us feel good. How these neurotransmitters make us feel, like dopamine, they can stimulate the same receptors. That's why things like sugar are so addictive, because they do give us that dopamine hit. It's the same thing as using drugs. We get the same feeling from these types of foods that we do if we were to do drugs. So that's why it's really good to be aware of how certain foods make us feel, and to break the cycle, essentially. Break the cycle so that you eat foods that provide a slow release of glucose, because you know what? We all know that good feeling is not long lasting. When we eat a bag of chips, or we, pound back a bag of M&Ms, I used to do that all the time. We know that you get that initial, woohoo, I feel amazing, but it's always followed by a crash because it's nutrient dead food and it doesn't provide sustainable energy, and it's not really nourishing our brain. In fact, it's doing the opposite. In the long run, it's increasing inflammation. And we know that brain inflammation is at the root of many brain degenerative diseases, and the key is to reduce inflammation.
Okay, I need the magic carb. I need the carb that is good for me, is crunchy, salty, sugary, satisfies me. Does such a carb exist?
Oh, absolutely.
And
Complex
please
carb.
do not say carrots or celery, Joy, because I don't crave carrots or celery.
Okay, so how about some healthy comfort foods like making your own banana bread? Would that like for me that
Yes.
totally works. Like on a rainy Sunday when it's cold and damp outside and I'm actually not actually hungry, but I'm like, "Oh, I'm just craving like that comfort food." I'll totally now I'm a big baker. I obviously love to cook and bake. So for me, like cooking and baking is like a therapy for me. So yes, you can make foods with complex carbohydrates that provide sustainable energy, that provide B vitamins. So for good mood, like there's certain nutrients you need for a good mood. You need lots of B complex vitamins. Think B for brain health. And have lots of fiber, so slow the release of glucose and support your gut health because we now know it's not just about the brain. We are making every class of neurotransmitter found in our brain is also found in our gut, known as our gut microbiome. So there's a whole area of research. There's researchers, scientists out there right now, fully immersed in holistic psychiatry. Excuse me, sorry. Hang on, I gotta take a.
Yeah, that's all right.
I don't know what this thing is in my throat today. Your first edit of the day. Sorry, Kevin.
That's
Let
fine.
me let me just start from holistic psychiatry. There is a whole area of science. There's many scientists right now investigating holistic psychiatry. So when we talk about supporting mood, we have to talk about supporting gut health as well as supporting brain health. And look at the body more as a connection, that all the systems are connected together. Like I think that so much in science, so many times scientists will look, a neurologist will just study the brain. A microbiologist is just studying the bugs in your body or maybe the bugs that are in a certain area of your body, but gut health and the microbiome, I mean, that's a whole other area we could go into, but I just think it's worth mentioning.
It opens up a whole different bunch of questions for me. So gut and brain. I've always heard,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even know if this is true, that your brain, it takes 20 minutes for your brain to realize that your stomach is full. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, it's not going to be precisely 20 minutes for every
Yeah.
single person, but it is about that long, depending on, how much hydrochloric acid you have and how efficient your digestive enzymes are. But your gut has to send it. So the signaling between your gut and your brain is a two-way street. And your gut has to send a signal to your brain to say, I am full. And then your brain says, okay, stop eating. But if you eat really fast, that signaling isn't just like automatic. It's not like if you pound back mac and cheese and you're done eating in less than 5 minutes, it's not that signaling it's not going to happen that quickly. That's why, science has said it's about 20 minutes. So that's why. And we all know this to be true. If we spend a little more time eating mindfully, so putting our fork down every time that we take a bite, as opposed to just kind of like hanging over our food, shoveling it in, we will get fuller. We'll have that sensation of fullness.
Okay, I'm going to get back to the banana bread thing because I know a lot of people had a couple of questions like I did, such as,
Yeah,
the ingredients to go in it, because it's not just enough to make some banana bread
totally.
and that's it. But I want to get just one more thing about the brain.
Yeah.
What the heck does my brain want? What do the neurotransmitters want from my
Yes.
food? Why it's telling me it's hungry.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
do I know?
So
Oh, and again, this is opening up a whole different line of questioning as well. How do I know I'm hungry and I'm not just craving something?
well, it's interesting because there's some theories out there that say that people who have obesity are they because they're eating nutrient dead food, the brain is literally starving for nutrition, so they keep consuming and consuming, eating macronutrients, carbs, proteins, and fats, but not getting all of the micronutrients that their brain needs, because your brain needs so many micronutrients to survive. So it makes sense that you may be physically full, but you're not nutritionally full, and you need to
Wow.
make sure that you eat vitamin C rich foods and lots of B complex vitamins, and getting in a great dose of amino acids that you get in good quality protein, and getting essential fatty acids that you get in things like fish, salmon, and of course, all the plant based fats that you find in chia and flax and walnuts. So that is what your brain craves. And when you don't get those micronutrients, it only makes sense that you just never feel quite satisfied.
So my brain wants nutrition, it wants vitamins, it wants to be satisfied. Why am I at such odds with what the feeling of satisfaction is?
I don't know. That's a good question. Why
Because
are
I
you
always,
so at odds
well,
with it? Yeah.
because it's like, I'll have, let's say, poutine. I want
Okay.
poutine. And I feel better after I have the poutine. I may feel guilty. I mean, that's going to fuel your anxiety and your stress levels alone. But how can I change my brain to say, okay, poutine sounds good, but what about this? Here I am. I'm negotiating with my brain.
Yeah, but you know what? I think it is interesting you say that because everyone is so biochemically, everyone is so unique. What makes you feel satisfied could be something entirely different than me. And you may be someone that needs to always make sure you have a good amount of good fat. I'm like that too. If I don't have some fats in every single meal and snack, I will be craving more food. So when you tell me a poutine, automatically I'm thinking, okay, something very fatty and rich. So your palate and perhaps your body, your metabolism needs a little more fat. So it could be that when you think you need to eat healthy, my question to you is, are you eating too lean? Like, is eating healthy for you just eating a salad with fat-free dressing or even just eating a salad in general? Like okay,
Mhm.
so if you're to eat a poutine, you feel very satisfied, what would be a meal of what you consider to be healthy, not satisfying?
Hmm. Okay, so I immediately start thinking, okay, you want some vegetables, you want a healthy fat. I mean, I start to overthink it. So
Right.
I'm thinking about some broccoli and some cauliflower, maybe with a lean piece of chicken and some rice.
Okay, so way too lean. Way too lean.
Way
That I
too
would not
lean?
personally, I would not be satisfied with that. I would be hungry and I'd want dessert. So for example, if I'm cooking dinner, and I bake some sweet potato, I want to sprinkle a little goat cheese on that. I actually never eat boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I always buy bone in with the skin because it gets that rich, delicious flavor. And I'm not, eating a whole chicken to myself. I'm eating like a good portion, but I'm also eating some of that fat. I'm actually
No, no,
eating,
no. Joy,
I'm not anti
Joy.
chicken skin.
No, no. You're not supposed to eat the skin. We've been told for years, don't eat the skin.
Yeah, so I
Really?
don't agree with that. I used to think that too. And I used
Because
to be
I'm feeling
hungry.
because I'm feeling more satisfied.
Yeah,
I
it's way
mean,
more satisfying when you have fat.
let's
But
face it. When I go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, I just eat the skin. So
yeah,
the
yeah,
crispy skin.
exactly.
But so that is really fascinating. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So, I mean, you're not eating it. So, it's a difference between eating a good quality chicken you've baked yourself, skin on, bone in, and KFC. And obviously, making the chicken yourself is a much better option. Now, if you feel like, oh, but I just can't do the skin, just cook it with the skin on because it seals in all that flavor and all those juices. The chicken just tastes way better. Peel the skin off, and you still have way more flavorful chicken.
okay, so we're healthier. You blew my mind there, by the way. We're healthier. How am I going to make so I what am I going to do about my depression? How do I feed my depression and my anxiety? And I don't mean feed it to make it, more prevalent. I mean, how do I feed it? How do I satisfy depression and anxiety or work with it?
Yeah, so I think you want to identify what are things aside from food, like food and mood, is so important to recognize. But I think you also have to identify what are things that make you feel good outside of food. And I recommend putting this somewhere you can see it every day, maybe on your fridge door. List out 5 things that make you feel amazing. It could be being with family could be number one. Number two could be going for a walk in nature and like smelling the leaves. And, it smells so good right now out in the forest. It could be taking a bath. It could be, watching your favorite movie from your childhood. So I think you need to create a list of those things that make you feel as good as eating a bag of chips or, maybe if you're like, but Joy, nothing satisfies me the same way. Okay, something that makes you feel almost as good. You just need to have your arsenal of things that make you feel good. And I know I've told you this before, but when I was single and living on my own, I used to be after dinner, I would just end up nibbling all night. And that I was emotionally eating. I was just eating out of boredom. I didn't know what else to do. I then you're thinking about all the things that aren't going well or right in your life. So when I made the decision that instead of after dinner just nibbling all night, stuffing down my emotions with food, when I made the choice to instead go for a walk, even if it was just half an hour, 45 minutes, I cannot believe the difference. Just being outside, being in nature, boosts serotonin, boosts your mood. So then when I came back home, I said to myself, if I am still hungry when I get back home, I will eat something. But I never was. I would go out for a walk. I'd be satisfied. I'd feel good. So it's really about find ways to support your mood that aren't just food, but also recognize that I believe that food should make us feel good, but we want to choose the good mood foods, right? Like the foods that are good for us and support a good mood. And there's so many of those foods out there.
Okay, we're going to talk about mealtime and grazing, not grazing in a moment. I'm talking with Joy McCarthy. She is a holistic nutritionist. Joyoushealth.com and on Instagram at joyoushealth. Mealtime, breakfast, most important meal of the day. It should be your biggest meal of the day. True, not true?
I think it depends on you. I think nutrition should be so individualized. And also, you should really listen to your body. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I just don't feel really hungry. So I delay my breakfast a little bit. I think when you hear of like a one size all approach to nutrition, don't follow that advice, because we are all so unique. There's 7.5 billion people on planet Earth right now. There's 7.5 billion different ways to eat. So yes, eating breakfast in the morning stimulates your metabolism, boosts your energy. But if you wake up in the morning and you don't actually have that, gnawing sensation in your gut, then you're not actually going to digest food well. So it's actually not a good time. It's not great for you to eat. So you really, I think, have to you really have to be aware of how you feel and not just eat because you think it's the right time to eat. I always like to say, don't eat by the clock, eat by how you feel. I think most people eat by the clock. And also there's fasting, right? There's so much science that shows how beneficial fasting is. So not eating first thing in the morning. Of course, it doesn't work for everybody. But that's a perfect example that eating breakfast first thing in the morning isn't always the best idea. But I do think it is a good idea to load your heavier meals earlier in the day, because at night, you don't want to have all this tons of food in your gut because your body is preparing for sleep, not preparing to boost your metabolism and start digesting your food. So something my parents do, my parents are in their 70s and they actually just started this about 6 months ago. They eat their largest meal now at lunchtime and they've lost weight. They feel better. They're sleeping better. And all they've done is what they used to have at dinner time, they now have at lunch. And then at dinner, they might just have a soup and a salad or soup and, a sandwich. They eat very light at dinner and it's made a huge difference for them.
Grazing. We've heard so many recommendations on grazing that eat a whole bunch of little meals all day long.
Yeah, so I'm also not a fan of that for everybody. I'm a perfect example of someone who does not thrive on that. If I eat little meals all throughout the day, I don't have that strong desire, that gnawing feeling to eat dinner. And I think you will have the best digestion, no bloating, feel your best when you eat a meal, when you actually feel the sensation of hunger. So if you're always eating, you're constantly depleting your digestive enzymes and you don't have really good, strong digestion. And then you also don't have good communication between your gut and your brain. So again, if you're a bodybuilder and you're working out or you're training for a marathon and you're burning massive amount of calories and you're always hungry, then yeah, you might always want to be stoking that fire. But otherwise, for the average person, I actually think it's better to have 3 meals a day and only have a small snack in between each meal if you truly feel hungry, meaning that gnawing sensation in your gut, or you feel like your blood sugar is dipped. For example, if you have type 2 diabetes and you have to really, keep your blood sugar balanced, and having a little snack could be a good idea. So grazing is not for everybody.
Wow, you're putting a lot of pressure on us. You're telling us to be individuals.
Yes, exactly. What a concept, right? Listen to your body is really what I'm saying. Not to some, don't listen to me. Don't listen to some expert out there. Listen to your body.
This is amazing because we have been told for so many years that there is only one way to do this. Like I said, big breakfast, first thing in the morning, lunch, light dinner, grazing, things like that. It's interesting to say, you know what? You're an individual. So your body reacts in different ways. You're satisfied in different ways.
Exactly.
Not eating before you go to sleep. Is that something that is true?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend, not eating anywhere from 2 to 4 hours before bed, depending on how fast you digest food. So that is correct, because you need to release melatonin. Melatonin is a very important hormone that helps you get into sleep. It helps your body repair. It's also a very beautifying hormone. But when the brain senses food in the gut, it actually halts the release of melatonin. So if you have like a big steak and frites, an hour and a half before bed, you are not going to have the same kind of sleep that you would have if you ate something a little bit lighter, or maybe even that steak and frites, you're having that, 3 hours before bed. So yeah, I would not recommend eating a large meal right before bed. If you want to have sometimes I have a light snack before bed just because I feel hungry. Like if we have a 5-year-old. So if we've eaten earlier, say we eat at 5:30 or 6, I may feel a little peckish at like 9 or 9:30. So I will have I might slice up an apple and have it with a little bit of almond butter, have a tea, or have something I baked earlier in the day. But you want to go to bed with a light feeling in your stomach. You don't want to go to bed hungry, but you don't want to go to bed full either. You want to kind of feel that happy medium. And you'll know that you've eaten the right amount of food in the evening if you wake up and you feel hungry. Like that is the best. I love that feeling in the morning.
Let's do that again. You will know that you're doing it right if you wake up and you're hungry.
Yeah, you have that sensation of hunger. Because then because we all know how it feels when we eat a big meal. Like it even happens to me sometimes too. Eat too late in the evening and you're like, you still almost feel like you haven't even digested your food the next morning. Does that ever happen to you?
Yes. Well, in the middle of the night, kind of feeling. I get that.
Yeah.
Food adds to our anxiety many times.
For sure.
It adds to our anxiety and our depression. We either overeat, we undereat. We are eating when we're not hungry. Things like that. So we're talking about a whole body, and thus the term holistic nutritionist. You actually, used to work in an ad agency. I mean, if
not a very healthy place.
If you want an anxiety-ridden job, that is it.
Oh, God. Oh, 100%.
What were you eating like then, and how did it make you feel?
I was not eating well. I was totally addicted to sugar. I had under my desk, I had boxes of peanut M&Ms, probably 300 bags at any one time. So you can bet what I was eating every afternoon as I sipped my Starbucks, probably non-fat, artificial sweetener, vanilla latte.
Well, we hear so much about what the conflict between the almond milk, 2% milk, 1% milk, diet drink. How healthy are these different things? Like I'm personally I'm onto almond milk. I'm trying to cut dairy out.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So almond milk, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So around 65% of the world's population is lactose intolerant. But in addition to that, The type of protein that's in cow's milk, alpha 1 casein, is actually really hard to digest and very allergenic for a lot of people. So even if you're not lactose intolerant, you may notice a difference taking a break from cow dairy. Your inflammation goes down and you just feel better. I'm not lactose intolerant, but I don't drink cow's milk. I eat some cow's cheese once in a while. So yes, what I recommend if someone is thinking of, I want to try and cut out dairy and see if I feel any different. So almond milk is a fine choice. Oat milk, coconut milk. You do want to read your labels though, and make sure you're not just slugging back something that's full of additives, because not any almond milk will do. You have to read, what is it actually made of? I do recommend people.
Yeah, I had heard that there is one ingredient especially you should stay away from, and it starts with a C.
Yeah, so carrageenan and different types of emulsifiers. So emulsifiers are they're a bit of the enemy to your gut microbiome. We know that certain types of emulsifiers reduce the diversity of the gut bacteria. So emulsifiers, it prevents the fat from separating from the liquid in an almond milk or a coconut milk.
So it's carrageenan?
Carrageenan.
Carrageenan
with a C. C-A-R-R. I think it's a weird spelling.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know if you were right or wrong, because I know I did a search in the different milks that I was buying, and yes, some had this in it, some didn't.
Mm-hmm. Generally, the milks that are sold in the refrigerator are better and have fewer additives than the ones on the store shelf. But that's not always the case, but that's often the case.
Okay.
Fewer additives, because you have to put more additives and preservatives in order for it to stay shelf stable. So that's why I always recommend with buying a non-dairy milk to actually buy one that's been in the refrigerator. Or if you're really motivated, you could try and make it yourself.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But yes, I could.
Fair enough.
We hear and you've used the word a couple of times now, inflammation, and we're hearing this more and more and more. Why is this so bad? What's happening? What's it doing to me?
So, inflammation can be good, right? If we sprain our ankle or we cut our wrist, inflammation increases in the body. The white blood cells go to the area to heal that area. But the problem is that inflammation is chronic, and you haven't actually sprained your ankle or cut your wrist. Inflammation is increasing by your lifestyle choices that you're making and by the foods that you're eating. So foods can drive up inflammatory chemicals in the body. So the body thinks, oh my God, I'm in an inflamed state. There must be pain. There must be something terrible, because the foods you're eating are increasing those chemicals. So there's foods that can lower inflammatory chemicals, and there's foods that can increase them. Even our gut bacteria can increase and decrease inflammatory chemicals as well, which is pretty fascinating. Or they can release inflammatory chemicals as well. So, it often comes back to gut health and what you eat and what you're nourishing your gut with. And so I'm a big fan. I don't like diets. I don't like using the word, but I would say, I love the anti-inflammatory diet, eating lots of colorful foods. One of the best diets out there that's one of the most anti-inflammatory that has so much research is actually the Mediterranean diet. And if you look at the Mediterranean diet, there's lots of color. There's lots of good fat. Good fat lowers our inflammation. And, for listeners who care about vanity, keeping inflammation in check is key for vanity as well. Because, if we're eating a lot of inflammatory foods, we age faster, we wrinkle faster.
Wow. I should point out that Joy is 83 years old.
Exactly.
By the way. If you saw her picture, you'd find that very funny, folks.
But now, you know what? Can I just add something to that?
Yeah.
So I'm turning 43 this year. But when I look at photos of myself in my 20s, when I was addicted to sugar and all that stuff, I look older then. I look now in my 40s. So you can absolutely reverse the signs of aging. And I've seen this with older people too. I know people who changed their life around at 55 and how much younger and vibrant they look, and their skin glows and they look amazing. They just have like that vitality in their eyes.
You should see her, folks. She looks amazing. Sugar or refined sugar is the enemy. True or false?
Oh, absolutely true. I mean,
Okay, so
sugar, refined, yeah.
yeah, keep going. Keep sugar. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look at what sugar is. It's just refined, nutrient dead food. It's not offering anything nutritionally viable to us at all. Yeah, it tastes good, but there's a lot of other options instead of refined sugar to sweeten our food that also taste good. So it's a nutrient dead food. It is not good for our gut health. It feeds like the fungus and just all the bad bacteria in our gut, and it spikes our blood sugar. It increases inflammaging. So inflammation making us
Mm.
age. So yeah, and also gives us that quick boost of energy, but always followed by a crash.
So when we hear this, when we hear it's not good for our gut, then it goes hand in hand. It's not good for our mental health.
Exactly. Not good
Okay.
for mental health. Like,
Raw
how do you
sugar.
feel?
Sorry, go
Raw
ahead.
sugar?
How do I feel what? We'll get to
I
the
was
raw
just gonna
sugar.
say, like, if you were to have like a bag of M&Ms, like I used to do all the time, like, how would that make you feel? Like, do you ever eat that kind of stuff? You like more
Yeah.
like salty
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, I like them all. I like them all. I'm an equal opportunity food abuser. So yeah, salty. It depends on the mood that
Right.
I'm in. All right, raw
Yeah, the
sugar.
reason I asked you that was raw sugar.
No, no, okay.
Yeah,
I
pretty.
keep
It's just
changing the topic here. Hold on. Yeah, I want you to finish your thought. Finish your thought. Why did you ask me that?
yeah. No, all I was gonna say is like I used to experience that too. When I used to eat a certain way,
Mhm.
I would feel good temporarily, followed by, oh man, I don't feel great. I feel bloated. I feel heavy. I feel tired. By the time I would get home from work, that's how I would be feeling based on the things that were snacking on in the afternoon. So, it gave me that temporary fix, that temporary quick fix, but then, was followed by not feeling so great. So I was just curious, like when eat certain things, like if you've noticed, yeah, I feel amazing, I continue to feel great, or do you notice you kind of have that crash as well?
What's my body telling me when it wants salty, crunchy pasta, meat, things like that? And what's it telling me when I want sweetness? Because I
Yeah, well,
rarely
there's
have
a
the
couple
same
things
one.
going on there. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to unpack here. It could be, an emotional need that you're trying to meet. Like a lot of people crave dessert after dinner because they grow up with their mom or dad, always having comfort food around, or Sunday night dinner with grandma was always, a dessert. So it could be meeting an emotional need for you. Only you know what that is, and that's different for everybody too. Salty things can mean adrenal insufficiency. So your adrenals are these two little glands that release cortisol and help your body balance out stress. Well, it's a common symptom of adrenal fatigue is craving salt. You see this a lot in people who are burnt out. They crave a lot of salt. So, I mean, that could be something going on. Or it could just be that you're bored. You're just eating out of boredom and you want something to kind of give you a quick mood boost. So, getting to the root of what's going on. And when I crave something salty, I do eat something salty, but it's the choice that I'm making. What am I going to have? So, I love making like toast with an egg and saute some spinach maybe with a bit of ghee, and I'll sprinkle it with some salt. If I feel like an extra bit of salt, I'm craving that, then I will sprinkle a little bit of like sea salt or pink rock salt. So I have those kinds of foods I like to eat too, but I just choose the better options.
Okay, let's get back to the options in sugar. Raw sugar.
No, I don't recommend raw sugar. It's basically just as refined as white sugar. It just hasn't been like bleached. So, I mean, there's different kinds of raw sugar, but typically the raw sugar is more like a yellowy color, but it's still like highly processed and does not have any nutrients.
Palm sugar or
Yeah,
coconut
coconut.
sugar.
Yeah, coconut palm sugar is a great option. It's going to be lower in the glycemic index than white sugar, and also much less refined. That's the key. So it's going to have some minerals, some antioxidants. It is by no means a superfood, but it's a great option If you like to bake or you want to put a little bit of sugar in your coffee, then coconut sugar would be a much, much better option than white sugar. And it has a really nice taste as well. Like it has like a bit of a caramel taste to it. It's really good.
Stevia.
I love stevia. That's what my choice is for tea or honey. But stevia is a 0-calorie herbal sweetener, but not all brands are created equal. Some brands, especially the powdered stevia, have a terrible aftertaste. So I find the liquid stevia best. I like that for smoothies. I have some in my tea that I'm drinking right now. So I'm a fan of stevia. It does not affect your blood sugar at all, but it is like hundreds of times sweeter than white sugar. So if you already feel like you're really addicted to sugar and you're just loading everything up with stevia, then it's not really allowing your taste buds to adapt. Like whenever people go through a period of cutting out sugar, like if you do a detox, if you were to do a detox and do cold turkey, no sugar for like 10 days, you would find when you go back to eat those same foods you used to eat, you would find that they're too sweet. I find that for myself now. I cannot eat the same things I used to eat. Like there's just no way.
I don't find that for sugar, but do you know what? Years ago, I find that now with salt. Is I made a
Ooh.
conscious decision. I wanted to cut down on my salt. So I mean, I went
Yep.
way, way, way the other way. So now I rarely add as much salt as they say when I'm cooking.
Yep. That's
And
good.
I'm noticing I go to a restaurant and it's like,
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
it's so
I know.
salty.
I find the exact same thing when we eat out. You're just
Be-
like, yeah, I
all
agree.
we do is, I mean, what's the first thing? And that, I'm sorry, that insults me when I cook something and the first thing someone does is they reach for the salt shaker and they pour salt on it without even tasting it.
I know. I know.
And
I know.
and why? Why? I
Yeah.
always ask
It's the
myself,
same reason as sugar. Yeah, it's the same reason. People just, their taste buds have adapted to that flavor. And that's just what they like, the more sweet you have, the more you want. The more salt you have, the more you want to keep adding it to it. So just like you said, when you cut back on the salt significantly, then you really taste it. But the other thing is, then you really taste your food, what your food actually tastes like. So your taste buds have to adapt. And they definitely do for both sugar and salt. Over the years, I've worked with hundreds of people when I used to do one-on-ones with clients. And, I had a lot of sugar addicts and salt addicts. And I don't think I ever had someone say to me who did cut sugar out cold turkey, that when they got to the end of the 10 days or 21 days, that they just had to like pound back like a pan of brownies. No, people always said, I just can't believe, I ate something that was sweet, like, my niece's birthday cake, and it was just too sweet for me. Now, it doesn't mean like, I don't want people to think like, I'm talking here as a nutritionist and I used to be a sugar addict. It doesn't mean I don't eat birthday cake or I don't enjoy these types of things. They're just, I see those kinds of foods as a treat, as a special indulgence. So even like chips, like we buy chips sometimes, but it's like a special treat. And we'll buy like, Neil Brothers, or there's a brand I really like called Hard Bite. And they make this, that may not sound good, but they're salty and delicious. They make parsnip chips and beet chips and different root veggie chips. So when I see that as being a treat, I'll have that. And it's just not something that we're eating every day, because it is, those kinds of treats are obviously either high in sugar or high in salt. And I see it as a treat.
okay, let's break it down here and let's leave people with the me three. 1, 2, 3. Three things that you've given us a lot of information, but give me three really solid things that I could be doing.
Okay, so 3 solid things you could be doing. Really, I'm just going to give you really simple things because,
Good.
Over the years of being a nutritionist, complicating stuff is just, people aren't going to do it. You got to start simple. And I'm sorry if this is too simple, but drink water. Everyone needs to drink more water. Our bodies are made of like 70% water. We need water because it's a raw material of our stomach acid, of every cell. Our cells are swimming and bathed in water, essentially. in order for nutrients to get delivered to the cell, we need to be well hydrated. Even just a headache can be dehydration. So, yes, let's both have a sip of water.
Yeah.
I try and drink like 4 of these a day. I think
Yeah.
this is about 750 milliliters. You'll find that you have such better energy and your skin looks great and you're pooping more regularly too. So number 1 is to drink more water.
Okay,
Number 2.
Before we get, I just a couple of things. Cold water, warm water. I've heard arguments for both.
I would say just room temperature water. So water that's as close to your body temperature as possible. If it's super cold, that's a bit of a shock to the system and your body has to warm it up to body temperature to actually hydrate your cells.
But I've heard that warming up process actually makes your body work.
Yeah, it can stimulate metabolism, but you're drinking water. We want to be drinking water for hydration. So I would say drink room temperature water. That being said, I actually really love ice cold water. So if I come home from a vigorous walk and in the middle of the summer, I'm not going to be just drinking room temperature water. I'm going to put like tons of ice in it because that's how I like to drink it sometimes. So, don't beat yourself up.
Can I give an advertisement, please, to our tap water, which gets a bum rap all the time? We are so lucky that we have water that is the quality that it is, and it's good for us. We have this readily available water that many people in the world are literally dying for, and yet we're going to go to the store and we're going to buy a bottle of water.
Oh, yeah,
and,
I don't.
And we seem, it's much better for me. The water that comes out of your tap, is there anything wrong with it, Joy?
Well, it's clean, but I personally do filter my water that comes out of the tap because I like to remove the chlorine and there still are some heavy metals, but you're absolutely right. When you say our water is probably the cleanest in the world, I would agree with that. But they have to put chemicals in it to make it that clean. So at the bare minimum, just have a Brita filter. It can cost you
that's easy.
Yeah, super easy.
But okay, number 2. I keep interrupting you. I apologize.
I was just going to add to your point of we need to use less plastic. So buying water in a plastic water bottle is just insane. Honestly, I know that's strong words to use, but I think it is kind of insanity to use single-use plastic. It's so wasteful. Number 2, do these things all have to be food related?
No, it's just anything that's going to be good for my mental health.
Okay.
And nutrition. Yeah.
Okay. This is an absolute for mental health that I personally, because as I mentioned to you earlier, I do suffer from anxiety myself, but I have lots of rituals in place to manage it. Getting outside and getting fresh air for 30 minutes every single day is absolutely mandatory for mental health, for my mental health anyways. But there's so many benefits. I could go on and on about all the benefits. I'm just looking out my window right now, even just looking outside and looking at, recognizing it's daylight, your eyes receive that as information and decide what hormones to release and what not to release. Like seeing daylight every single day is incredibly important for your circadian rhythm and your mood because the light is information for your brain. Very important. So every day, 30 minutes. So drink water, then every day, get outside for at least 30 minutes, rain or shine. Okay, so that's 2. And my third one is also really simple, and it's bringing it back to food. And that is eat colorful foods. Color is a cue for health. We have had this drilled into our brains since the beginning of time. And when we eat, so I would recommend when you have a plate of food, have at least 3 different colors. You could have red, purple, green, because this ensures you're getting a wide variety of micronutrients. And this is so important for our immune health, for our brain health, for our mood. Really supports our mood when we are ensuring we're getting a variety of phytonutrients. So eat a rainbow, really simple. Drink water, get outside, eat a rainbow.
And what I love about that is it does simplify a very complex thing. So even though it may sound simple, you're talking about vitamins and what nutritional value come in the foods of different colors. So instead of trying and guess all of that, just simply eat the rainbow.
Exactly.
I like
Do you know I heard, can I just share one more thing?
Yeah.
Sorry, I know this is your podcast. Just one.
That's fine.
I was actually interviewing a naturopathic doctor who's like a microbiologist expert the other week. And she was saying something she tells all her patients. And I thought it was so smart. Now, at first, when I tell you this, it's going to seem crazy. But then when you really think about it, you see it's totally achievable. So she says in the course of a week, to eat 30 different foods. Now you might be thinking, well, Joy, I live by myself. Like, how is that going to work? But when I say 30 different foods, think about if you made yourself a beautiful pasta sauce, homemade pasta sauce, and you like spiralize some zucchini. How many ingredients might you have there? Even your olive oil counts as one. Your fresh oregano or your dried oregano, your rosemary. In that one meal, you might have 12 different ingredients. So she's saying eat 30 ingredients and 30 different foods. And I love that because it really helps us to have lots of variety because most people eat the same things all the time.
They eat the same things all the time when they're trying to eat healthy. I fall into that trap.
Yeah. Yes, that is so true.
Invariably, it becomes repetitive because I feel, okay, I'm going to have my oatmeal in the morning with some nuts and berries on it. And then for lunch, I'm going to have some soup and I'm going to have a little piece of chicken. And it becomes the same thing every day. For a while, it feels really good. Then it gets boring. So eating 30 different
Then you got to try a new recipe.
And as it just so happens, you are the author of 2 cookbooks? 3. All right. And you can't go anywhere, by the way, without her cookbook being front and center. So it's available at all major bookstores. It's available at grocery stores. It is available at drugstores. It is available online. It's most likely also available, I'm guessing, at joyoushealth.com.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yep. We sell it there too.
And at Joyous Health on Instagram. And blog and podcast.
Yeah.
You do those.
Yep. My blog, joyoushealth.com. Our podcast is the Joyous Health Podcast, where you can find wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right. Every time I've talked to you, I get such incredible reaction. And I really want to thank you for helping us out in understanding something that we really try and emphasize in the show a lot. And that is that your mind and your body are one thing. And we forget that, especially when it comes to eating. We're more concerned about our outward appearance when we're eating than we are our inward self. So thank you very much.
That's so true. You're very welcome. Thank you for having me, Kevin.
And there we go, as if we needed more proof that your mental health and your biological health are indeed one and the same thing. And one size doesn't fit all. A certain diet may work for one person, but maybe not for another. You are an individual, especially when it comes to your mental health. What works for one person may not work for you. So don't get discouraged. You are your own mental health advocate. Thanks for joining me. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.
Please consider subscribing to this podcast and also check out the Happy Molecule Extra at thehappymolecule.com. There you'll find a link to a video version of this episode, be able to join the conversation about mental health, learn about our Facebook Live show, and get a preview of upcoming episodes. You can email us at thehappymolecule@gmail.com. I'm Erin Davis, wishing you good mental health.